I sat at the mahogany table in the executive boardroom, smoothing the fabric of my blazer with sweating palms. This was the moment I had worked toward for 5 grueling years. I was the senior director of compliance, but everyone knew I practically ran the operations department. I had saved this company millions in potential lawsuits, worked 80-hour weeks, and missed my own sister's wedding to close the quarterly audit. The vice president of operations position was finally open, and I was the only logical choice. The door swung open, and Marcus, our CEO, strode in. He was laughing, looking more like he was walking into a party than a board meeting. He didn't even look at me. He stood at the head of the table and clapped his hands. "Team, I have big news," he announced, his voice booming. "I'm thrilled to promote someone who brings fresh energy and a new perspective to the leadership team. Our new VP of Operations is Bella." The room went deadly silent. I froze, my breath catching in my throat. Bella was a 22-year-old intern who had started 3 months ago. She spent her days texting in the break room and asking how to use the coffee machine. She wasn't qualified to run a lemonade stand, let alone a department. Marcus finally locked eyes with me and smirked, a cold, arrogant twist of his lips. "We need vision, Elena," he said, dismissing my entire career in one sentence. "Not just rule following." I didn't wait for the meeting to end. I followed Marcus straight into his office, closing the door firmly behind me. My heart was pounding against my ribs, a mix of humiliation and rage. "Marcus, this has to be a joke," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "I have an MBA and 10 years of experience. Bella doesn't even know how to read a balance sheet. You can't put her in charge of operations." Marcus didn't even look up from his phone. He waved his hand dismissively. "Bella understands me, Elena," he said, leaning back in his leather chair. "You're too rigid. You kill the vibe in the office with all your regulations and protocols. Bella brings morale." He stood up and walked to the window, staring out at the city. "Look, be a team player. Train her, show her the ropes, or you can leave. It's your choice." I felt like I had been slapped. He wasn't just passing me over, he was asking me to do the job for her while she took the title and the salary. I turned to walk out, my hands shaking. In the hallway, Bella was waiting. She was holding a shiny, Platinum Company credit card. She smiled at me, a sweet, venomous smile. "Hey, Elena," she chirped. "Can you teach me how to use this? I want to buy lunch for the team." 2 days later, the reality of my new hell set in. Since Bella was technically my boss, I was forced to approve her expenses. I sat at my desk, staring at the approval queue on my monitor. The first charge under her name popped up. It was for $15,000. The category was listed as office decor. I frowned. We had a strict budget for office supplies. I clicked on the digital receipt attached to the file. It wasn't for desks or ergonomic chairs. It was from a high-end Italian furniture boutique in the Fashion District. The item was a white suede sectional sofa. I scrolled down to the delivery address. It wasn't the office address. It was a residential address in the luxury district, an apartment complex I knew Bella lived in because she bragged about the view constantly. My stomach churned. This wasn't just nepotism or bad management. This was theft. Marcus had given her a company card, and she was furnishing her apartment with shareholder money. I printed the receipt, my hands trembling. I realized then that I wasn't dealing with a bad boss, I was dealing with a criminal ring. And they were sloppy because they thought they were untouchable. I couldn't sleep that night. I went back to the office late, when the cleaning crew was vacuuming the halls. I needed to see what else Bella had approved. I logged into the vendor payment system. Bella had authorized a recurring payment of $50,000 a month to a consulting firm I had never heard of called Visionary Corp. I pulled up the contract. It was vague, listing services like marketing strategy and brand synergy. It smelled fake. I opened a new tab and searched the state business registry. I typed in Visionary Corp. The results loaded slowly. When the page refreshed, I gasped. The registered agent for the company wasn't a marketing guru. It was a woman named Maria, Bella's mother. I sat back in my chair, the glow of the monitor illuminating the dark office. Marcus wasn't just buying Bella furniture. He was funneling company money directly to his mistress's family. He was draining the company accounts to fund her lifestyle. I felt a cold resolve harden in my chest. They thought I was just a rule follower. They were about to find out exactly what happens when you break the rules in front of the compliance director. I knew I needed to follow protocol to protect myself. I took the Visionary Corp documents and the sofa receipt to the chief financial officer, Mr. Henderson. He was a nervous man who sweated profusely whenever Marcus raised his voice. I walked into his office and placed the folder on his desk. "We have a problem," I said. "Significant embezzlement." Henderson opened the folder. He saw the receipts. He saw the registry info. His face went pale, draining of all color. He closed the folder quickly, looking at the door as if he expected a SWAT team. "Don't dig there, Elena," he whispered, pushing the folder back to me. "What? This is illegal," I argued. "Marcus calls these discretionary funds," Henderson hissed. "He knows about it. If you flag this, he won't thank you. He'll bury you. He'll destroy your career." I stared at him. The CFO was terrified. He wasn't going to help me. He was complicit through his silence. I realized the corruption went higher than just the CEO and his mistress. The entire system was rigged to protect Marcus. I took the folder back. "Understood," I said calmly. But I didn't understand. I was just getting started. The following Monday, Marcus called an all-hands meeting. He stood on the stage, beaming. "I have to take a strategic merger meeting in the Maldives," he announced. "It's a tough job, but I'm going to secure our future. Bella will be accompanying me to take notes and learn the negotiation process." The room grumbled. We had been under a wage freeze for 2 years. People were struggling to pay rent, and he was flying to a tropical paradise. I went back to my desk and accessed the flight logs for the corporate jet. I cross-referenced the dates with our client list. We had no clients in the Maldives. We had no prospects in the Maldives. I looked at the manifest cost. Fuel, catering, landing fees, and luxury accommodation, $200,000. They were burning a fortune of shareholder money for a romantic vacation disguised as work. I looked at the line item for client entertainment. It was listed as $20,000 for vintage wine. I felt sick. They were partying on our salaries. I needed more than receipts. I needed proof of intent. I needed access to Marcus's private emails, but he kept his laptop locked in a safe when he wasn't using it. I couldn't get it alone. I walked down to the IT department in the basement. I found Kenji, the network manager. Kenji was brilliant, but Marcus had passed him over for a raise 3 years in a row, calling him a tech grunt. I sat on the edge of his desk. "Kenji, how would you like to see Marcus fired?" Kenji spun his chair around, looking interested. "I dream about it every day." I opened my folder and showed him the flight logs and the sofa receipt. "He's stealing from us. But I need to prove he's cooking the books to hide it. I need 5 minutes with his laptop." Kenji looked at the papers, his jaw tightening. He denied my request for a new server budget, but he bought a couch for 15 grand. Kenji stood up. Get me into his office. I'll clone the drive. We won't just see his emails, we'll see everything. We waited for the perfect moment. I scheduled a mandatory fire drill for Thursday afternoon. As the alarm blared and employees shuffled toward the stairs, Marcus grabbed his coat and left his office, leaving his laptop on his desk. He assumed his door locked automatically, but I had put a piece of tape over the latch earlier that morning. As soon as the hallway was clear, I signaled Kenji. He rushed into the executive suite, plugged a high-speed drive into Marcus's laptop, and started the cloning process. I stood guard at the door, my heart hammering like a drum. The progress bar crawled. 50%, 70%. Suddenly, I heard heels clicking in the hallway. It was Bella. She hadn't evacuated. She was walking toward the office, texting. Kenji, hurry, I whispered into my headset. Bella looked up and saw me. Elena, why aren't you outside? Compliance check, I lied smoothly, blocking the door. Checking for unlocked workstations. Kenji slipped the drive into his pocket and walked out behind me just as Bella reached us. All clear, Kenji said, keeping his head down. We walked away, sweating, with the company's secrets in Kenji's pocket. That night, we met at Kenji's apartment. He decrypted the drive. What we found was a goldmine of corruption. It wasn't just the furniture or the fake consulting firm. It was securities fraud. Marcus was artificially inflating the quarterly revenue reports. He was hiding losses in shell accounts to make the stock price look higher than it actually was. We found a folder labeled, Exit Strategy. Inside were emails to his broker. He was planning to sell all his personal stock options next month, right before the quarterly earnings report came out. He knew the stock would tank once the real numbers were revealed. He was planning to dump his shares, crash the company, bankrupt the pension fund, and run off to Italy with Bella. He was going to leave 1,000 employees with nothing while he walked away with $50 million. This is prison time, Kenji whispered, his face glowing in the blue light of the monitor. He's not just a thief. He's a monster. The next morning, I walked into the office feeling like I was carrying a grenade. But when I tried to log into my computer, the screen flashed red, access denied. My office phone rang. It was Marcus. Come to my office. Now. I walked in. Marcus was sitting behind his desk, flanked by 2 security guards. He didn't offer me a seat. Security flagged an unauthorized connection to my laptop during the fire drill, he said softly. His eyes were cold and dead. Kenji already confessed that you put him up to it. I fired him 10 minutes ago. My heart stopped. Marcus, silence, he snapped. If you are spying on me, Elena, I won't just fire you. I will sue you for corporate espionage. I have lawyers who will tie you up in court until you are homeless. He slid a document across the desk. It was a strict non-disclosure agreement. Sign this. It admits to misconduct and bans you from speaking about the company. If you sign, I give you 3 months severance. If you don't, security throws you out, and I call the police. I looked at the NDA. I looked at the security guards. I knew that if I fought him right now, he would have me dragged out of the building. He would confiscate my phone and my notes. I needed to get out of there to use the evidence Kenji and I had secured. I had to play the defeated victim. I picked up the pen. My hand shook, but not from fear, from acting. You win, Marcus, I said, my voice barely a whisper. I can't afford a lawsuit. I'll sign. Marcus laughed, a deep, satisfied sound. Smart girl. Bella was right about you, you know when you're beaten. I signed the paper. I'll pack my things, I said. No need, Marcus smiled. We'll ship them to you. Get out. I walked out of the office with my head down, pretending to cry. But as I stepped into the elevator, I stopped the tears. The NDA was void. An NDA cannot enforce the cover-up of a crime. He thought he had silenced me. He had just set me free. I drove straight to my apartment and locked the door. I pulled out my personal laptop. I had a copy of the clone drive that Kenji had given me before he was fired. I set up a dead man switch. I uploaded the most damning evidence, the flight logs, the shell company registry, and the stock dumping emails, to a secure cloud server. I programmed it to automatically email the Securities and Exchange Commission, SEC, the Department of Justice, and every member of the Board of Directors in 48 hours. The only way to stop the email was for me to log in and cancel it. This was my insurance. If Marcus sent someone to hurt me, or if I was arrested, the truth would come out automatically. I pulled out a burner phone and texted Kenji, "The timer is set. It's time to go nuclear." I couldn't just wait for the timer. I needed to make him panic. Panic makes people sloppy. Before I left the building, I had slipped a printed copy of one specific email onto the communal printer in the break room. It was the email between Marcus and his broker discussing the pump and dump scheme. I sat at home and watched the company's Slack channels, which I still had access to on my phone because IT hadn't wiped my device yet. The chaos started at 2 p.m. Someone found the email. Photos of it circulated instantly. The rumor mill began to churn. Employees, terrified for their savings, started panic selling their employee stock options. By 4 p.m., the stock price had dipped 5%. Marcus would be furious. He was trying to keep the price high until he sold, and I was chipping away at his fortune from my living room. Bella, arrogant as ever, made a critical error. While the office was in chaos, she was bored. She posted a photo on her public Instagram account. It was a selfie of her wearing a massive diamond necklace, holding a glass of champagne. The caption read, "Perks of the new job. #BossLife." The geo tag was the Maldives. I took a screenshot immediately. I cross-referenced it with the credit card statements on the clone drive. There it was, a charge for $25,000 at a jewelry store in the resort, categorized as client gifts. I sent the screenshot and the credit card line item anonymously to the biggest industry gossip blog. They published it within the hour. The headline screamed, "Intern turned VP flaunts embezzled diamonds while stock tanks." The office Slack channels exploded with outrage. The employees weren't just scared anymore, they were ready to riot. Marcus realized the leaks were too coordinated. He knew it was me. He decided to stop playing games. He planted false evidence in my old office, files showing that I had authorized the payments to the shell company. He called the police to report me for embezzlement. I got a text from Henderson, the terrified CFO. He had finally grown a spine after seeing the stock drop. "Henderson, get out of your house. Marcus just called. The police. He's framing you. They're on their way." I grabbed my laptop and my go bag. I ran out the back door just as a siren wailed in the distance. I wasn't just a whistleblower anymore. I was a fugitive. He had turned the law against me. I checked into a cheap motel on the outskirts of the city, paying cash. I paced the small, musty room. I turned on the TV news. My picture was on the screen. Former compliance director wanted for embezzlement. My stomach dropped. Marcus had flipped the narrative perfectly. He had the money and the power to control the media. To the world, I was the thief. I felt a wave of hopelessness. How could I fight a billionaire? I sat on the bed, head in my hands. Then, I remembered the audio files. On Kenji's clone drive, there was a folder of voice memos. Marcus was a narcissist. He recorded his meetings so he could listen to himself talk. I hadn't listened to them all yet. I put on my headphones and started clicking through. I listened for hours. Most of it was boring corporate jargon. But then, I found a file dated 2 weeks ago. It was a recording of Marcus and Bella in his office. Marcus's voice: "Don't worry about the auditors, babe. Henderson is a coward. He won't say a word." Bella's voice: "But what if the board finds out? Marcus, I own the board. They are clueless. We'll strip the assets, sell the stock, and be in Italy before they even know the money is gone. This company is a sinking ship, and we're taking the lifeboats." It was a confession. It was clear, undeniable, and damning. He admitted to the fraud, the theft, and the plan to flee. I didn't send the audio file to the police. Marcus might have friends there. I sent it to the producers of the biggest financial news network in the country. "Play this," I wrote, "and watch the world burn." The next morning, I watched the morning financial news from my motel bed. The anchors looked shocked. "Breaking news," the host said. "We have received a disturbing audio recording involving the CEO of Visionary Tech." They played the tape. Marcus's voice rang out, clear and arrogant, admitting to robbing the company. The graph of the stock price on the screen turned into a vertical red line. It plummeted 40% in minutes. They cut to live footage outside the headquarters. Marcus was trying to get into his limo, ignoring shouting reporters. He looked terrified. The narrative had shifted instantly. I wasn't, Elena the thief, anymore. I was the source of the truth. Marcus was the fraud. My burner phone rang. It was the chairman of the board. He had gotten my number from Henderson. "Elena," he said, his voice shaking. "We heard the tape. We need you to come in. We need to understand the extent of the damage." "I'm a wanted fugitive, sir," I said coldly. "Marcus called the police on me. We are calling the police chief right now to retract the charges," the chairman said. "Please, come in. Help us fix this." "I'll come in," I said. "But on one condition. I'm bringing the FBI with me. I want federal agents waiting in the lobby." "Done," he said. I walked into the lobby of my old building an hour later. I wasn't alone. I was flanked by 4 federal agents in windbreakers. The receptionist, who used to ignore me when I said good morning, looked at me with wide, terrified eyes. "Where is he?" the lead agent asked. "Executive suite," I said. We took the elevator up. The hallway was quiet. We reached Marcus's office. The door was locked. We could hear the sound of a shredder running frantically inside. "Open up," the agent shouted. No answer. The agent kicked the door. It flew open with a crash. Marcus was there, shoving handfuls of paper into the machine. Bella was in the corner, crying, stuffing bundles of cash into a designer handbag. Marcus froze. He tried to bluff, adjusting his tie. "This is a misunderstanding," he shouted, pointing at me. "She's a disgruntled employee. She faked the tape. It's I." The lead agent didn't blink. He held up a warrant. "We have the bank records, Marcus. We have the offshore accounts. It's over." He grabbed Marcus and spun him around, clicking handcuffs onto his wrists. Bella tried to run toward the side door. "I didn't know," she screamed. "He made me do it. I'm just an intern." I stepped forward. "You signed the invoices, Bella. You signed the incorporation papers for the shell company. You aren't an intern, you're an accomplice." An agent grabbed Bella. She shrieked as the cuffs went on. I watched them both being dragged out of the office they had stolen. I went to the boardroom. The directors were gathered, looking pale. They were trying to figure out how to handle Marcus's firing. "We need to offer him a severance package to avoid a lawsuit," one director suggested weakly. "Maybe 10 million to leave quietly." I slammed my hand on the table. "Absolutely not." I pulled a binder from my bag. Read page 40 of the company bylaws, I said. I wrote a clawback clause for gross misconduct 3 years ago. You all voted on it without reading it. It states that if an executive is terminated for cause involving criminal activity, they forfeit all severance, all stock options, and they are personally liable for restitution. The board stared at me. He gets nothing. The chairman asked. He gets nothing, I said. And he owes us the money back. I had just saved the company millions of dollars again. In custody, loyalty evaporated. Bella turned on Marcus immediately to save herself. She told the prosecutors everything. She revealed where Marcus hid the encryption keys for the offshore accounts. She gave up the location of a storage unit filled with stolen assets. The betrayal was total. I heard later that Marcus watched from his cell as his true love sold him out for a plea deal. He had ruined his life for a woman who traded him for a lighter sentence. A week later, the dust had settled. The stock was stabilizing. The stolen money was being recovered. I sat in the boardroom with the chairman. Elena, he said, we owe you everything. You saved this company. We want to offer you the CEO position. We'll double your salary. You're the only one who knows how to run this place ethically. He pushed a contract toward me. It was everything I had ever wanted. The title, the money, the validation. I looked at the office that used to be Marcus's. I looked at the board members who had ignored my warnings for years and only listened when the FBI kicked down the door. I smiled and pushed the contract back. No. The chairman looked shocked. What? Why? I cleaned up your mess, I said, standing up. But I don't want to work for people who let it happen. You watched him sideline me. You watched him hire his mistress. You only cared when the stock dropped. I picked up my bag. I'm starting my own independent auditing firm. My first client is the SEC. I've been hired to monitor this company to make sure you stay compliant. Elena, please, he begged. Goodbye, Chairman, I said. I walked out of the building. I walked past the security desk, past the elevators, and out into the fresh air. I wasn't an employee anymore. I wasn't a victim. I was the owner of my own destiny. Marcus was in a cage. I was finally, truly free.